I stared at him across the room and said the words I never thought I would ever say in my marriage. Tell me the truth right now, or I swear everything changes between us tonight. He froze. Not a word, not a sound. And in that silence, I already knew something was wrong. I just didn't know yet how far it went, how deep the betrayal was, or that the two people I trusted most in this world were about to destroy everything I believed was real. Chapter 1. The People I Trusted Most. There are some betrayals that hurt, and then there are betrayals that split your life into two parts, the life before and the life after. My name is Sarah, at least that's the name I'll use for this story. I'm 34 years old, and for most of my life, I believed I was lucky. I had a husband who loved me, a family that supported me, and a sister who was also my best friend. If someone had told me back then that the two people I trusted most would eventually destroy my marriage, I would have laughed. I would have defended them. I would have said, no, not them. But I was wrong, very wrong. It was a Friday evening. Rain tapped softly against the kitchen window. The smell of garlic bread filled the house. My husband, Michael, was setting plates on the dining table. My younger sister, Emily, sat at the counter scrolling through her phone. The three of us looked like a normal family, happy, comfortable, safe. Looking back now, I wonder if they were already hiding something, or if the affair had not yet begun. I may never know. Emily smiled. Smells amazing in here. I laughed. You're only saying that because you don't have to cook. Exactly. Michael chuckled. At least she's honest. Emily looked at him. You should appreciate me. I make your wife laugh. And I appreciate that. Their eyes met. Only for a second. Nothing unusual, nothing suspicious. At least not then. Back then I saw two people I loved getting along. Now, that memory feels different. Poisoned. That night we watched a movie together, shared dessert, talked about vacations, future plans, dreams, normal things. The kind of ordinary moments that make up a life. The kind of moments that become painful when you discover they weren't as innocent as you thought. Months passed, then years. Emily remained a huge part of our lives. She had her own apartment, but she practically lived at our house. Birthdays, Christmas, family barbecues, weekend dinners. She was always there, and I never questioned it. Why would I? She was my sister. Michael was my husband. Those were the two relationships I never imagined needing to protect myself from. Chapter 2. The First Crack. The first sign wasn't dramatic. There was no lipstick on a collar, no mysterious phone calls, no shocking confession, just a feeling, a tiny feeling, the kind you almost ignore until it starts coming back again and again. One evening, Michael came home late. Not unusual. His job could be demanding. But something felt off the moment he walked through the door, like he was carrying tension with him, heavy, invisible, like a backpack he didn't want me to see. I kissed him and asked, "You okay?" And he said, "Yeah," too quickly, almost rehearsed, like the answer was already prepared before I even asked. I said, "You seem stressed," and he replied, "Just work." Again, too fast, too clean, too easy. Later that night, he sat on the couch scrolling through his phone, and then it happened. A small smile appeared on his face, brief, subtle, but enough, because I noticed it immediately, since he hadn't smiled all evening. I sat beside him and asked, "What are you smiling at?" And in an instant he locked the screen, just like that. One quick motion, click, gone. His smile disappeared too. "Oh, nothing," he said, and that word, nothing, stayed in the air like something heavy. Because nothing is the most dangerous answer in a relationship. I remember staring at him, feeling something shift inside me. Not enough to accuse him, not enough to start a fight, just enough to make me wonder. And once doubt enters your mind, it doesn't leave easily. Chapter 3. The Message. Several weeks later, everything changed. It was nearly midnight, the house was silent, and Michael had fallen asleep on the couch while watching television. I was cleaning up the living room, turning off lights, picking up blankets, doing normal things, just going through the motions of an ordinary night, when his phone suddenly lit up for just a moment. A notification, a single message, and I wasn't trying to snoop. I wasn't looking for anything. I wasn't suspicious enough for that, not yet, but then I saw the screen. and my entire world shifted. The message read, "I miss you already," and my stomach tightened instantly as I froze in place, the room suddenly feeling colder, heavier, wrong. Then I saw the sender name, and my heart stopped. Emily, my sister. "No," I whispered, barely able to breathe. "No, no." Because there had to be an explanation. There had to be something innocent behind it. Maybe she meant both of us. Maybe I was overthinking. Maybe I was being paranoid. But even as I told myself that deep down, I already knew. Because people don't react the way I reacted unless a part of them already understands the truth. I stood there staring at the phone, completely unable to move, unable to breathe, unable to think. And for the first time in my life, I was truly afraid of what I might discover. Chapter 4. The Truth. The next morning, Michael left for work. I sat alone at the kitchen table, his phone charging on the counter, and I just stared at it for what felt like an hour, maybe longer, until I finally picked it up. My hands were shaking, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears, and part of me was praying I was wrong, begging to be wrong. But I opened the messages anyway and started scrolling until I found Emily's conversation. Thousands of messages, months of conversations, photos, plans, secrets, declarations of love. One message stood out like a blade, Emily saying, "I hate pretending we're just friends." And Michael replying, "Soon, I promise." Then another message, Emily saying, "She can never know." And Michael answering, "She won't." And in that moment, something inside me didn't just break emotionally. It felt physical, like my chest had cracked open. My vision blurred instantly, tears pouring down my face as I realized the affair had been happening for over a year. A year while I cooked dinners, a year while we celebrated holidays, a year while we took family photos, a year while they stood beside me smiling like nothing was wrong, a year of lies. And I had no idea. Chapter 5. The Confrontation. I don't remember how long I sat there. Minutes, hours, maybe both. But the messages kept scrolling, and every single one felt like another knife going deeper, and somehow they kept getting worse. There were photos inside restaurants I had never been invited to, hotels I didn't even know they had been in, private jokes I was never part of, pet names I had never heard, and then the conversations about a future together. A future together. My husband, my sister, planning a life while I was still sitting in the middle of the one they were destroying. My stomach turned violently. I couldn't breathe properly. I ran to the bathroom and threw up until there was nothing left, gripping the sink, shaking so hard I thought I might collapse. Then I cried. Then I threw up again because my body was reacting before my mind could even catch up. And the worst part wasn't even the affair. It was realizing this wasn't new. This wasn't a mistake. This was months of them looking me in the eyes and lying without hesitation. Every birthday, every Christmas, every family dinner, every laugh, every hug, every "I love you." Every single moment I trusted them, all of it contaminated. By the time Michael came home that evening, I wasn't crying anymore. I was empty, the kind of empty that feels dangerous. The front door opened and he said, "Hey, babe." Like nothing in the world had changed, like he hadn't already destroyed mine, and I just stood there waiting as he walked in smiling until he saw my face, and the smile disappeared instantly. "What happened?" he asked, and I didn't answer. I just picked up his phone and threw it onto the couch, the sound soft, but in my head it was like an explosion, and his face went completely white because he already knew before I even spoke. "Sarah," he started, and I cut him off. "How long?" Silence. I stepped closer, my voice shaking but rising. "How long, Michael?" And his eyes dropped to the floor, and that was the answer. Something inside me snapped. "Look at me!" I screamed. He flinched. "How long?" And his voice came out barely a whisper. "A year." And just like that, the room tilted. A year. Not a mistake. Not confusion. Not something that just happened. A year. And I laughed, but it wasn't a laugh. It was something breaking inside me. "A year," I repeated. "A year." And he tried to step closer, saying, "Please let me explain." But I moved back instantly and said, "Don't you dare touch me." And in that moment, I saw it in his face. The realization, the fear. But I didn't care anymore because whatever was left of me had already been destroyed the moment I saw the truth. Chapter 6. The Phone Call. That night, I called Emily. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone as it rang. Once, twice, 3 times, each tone feeling louder than the last, like it was dragging me closer to something I wasn't ready to face. Then she answered. "Hey, sis." Sis. That single word hit me like something physical, something cold and sickening, and for a moment I couldn't even breathe properly. I didn't waste time. "I know," I said. Silence. A long, suffocating silence. Then I heard her breathing on the other end, uneven, like she already knew why I was calling. "Sarah," she started, but I cut her off immediately. "No," I said, my voice shaking but firm. "No excuses." More silence. And then everything collapsed. She started crying. Hard. Broken. "I'm sorry," she said, and I remember that word landing inside me like poison because I had never hated a word more in my entire life. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry," she kept repeating it over and over, as if saying it enough times could somehow undo what she had done, as if it could erase the truth, erase the betrayal, erase him. And I snapped. "You sat at my table," I said, my voice rising, shaking. "You celebrated holidays with me. You ate with me. You smiled at me." She sobbed harder. "You hugged me," I continued. "You stood in front of me like nothing was wrong." "Sarah," she whispered, but I was already falling apart. "You looked me in the eye," I said, now crying too, my voice breaking. "And the entire time you were sleeping with my husband." The silence that followed was unbearable, like the world had stopped breathing. Then she whispered, barely audible, "I never meant for this to happen." And something inside me just broke. I laughed, one short, broken sound that didn't feel like laughter at all. "You didn't mean for it to happen." My voice cracked completely. "You had an affair for a year. A year." My chest was shaking, my whole body trembling as the truth finally came out in words I couldn't take back. "That's not a mistake," I said. And then I ended the call, because if I had stayed 1 second longer, I think something inside me would have completely shattered beyond repair. Chapter 7. The Family Explosion. The secret didn't stay secret for long. By the next day, everything had already fallen apart. My parents knew, my cousins knew, my aunt, my uncle, everyone. And just like that, it wasn't just my pain anymore. It became a war inside the family, something loud and uncontrollable, something that spread faster than I could even process. My mother called first, crying so hard her voice kept breaking in and out, begging me through the phone, "Please, tell me this isn't true." And I just sat there, frozen, because I couldn't lie to her. I couldn't soften it. I couldn't protect her from the truth anymore, because it was true. Every ugly, painful, humiliating part of it. And saying it out loud made it real in a way I still wasn't ready to accept. Then came my father. At first, he didn't even speak, just silence on the line. And when he finally did, his voice wasn't just angry. It was trembling, heavy with something I had never heard from him before. Rage. Pure, uncontrolled rage. But it wasn't aimed at me. It was all for Emily. For the first time in my life, I heard my father lose control. I heard him yell, and it didn't feel like just anger. It felt like disappointment breaking apart in real time, like something inside our family was snapping and there was no way to fix the sound of it. That hit harder than anything else, harder than the betrayal, harder than the truth, because it changed how everything felt between us in that moment. My mother kept trying to reach Emily after that. Call after call, message after message. But Emily stopped answering completely. One moment she was part of our lives, laughing, talking, sitting at our table. And the next, she was gone. No calls, no replies, no family gatherings, no explanations, nothing. Just silence. A silence so heavy it felt like she had been erased from the family overnight. And I should have felt more. I should have felt anger burning through me, or heartbreak tearing me apart, or guilt twisting inside my chest. But I didn't. I couldn't. All I felt was something quieter, something colder, relief. Because I couldn't face her. I couldn't sit in the same room and pretend nothing had happened. Not after everything she did. Not after she helped destroy the one place I thought I was safe. Not after she became part of the reason my entire life no longer felt like mine. Chapter 8. The Divorce. The divorce happened quickly, not because it was easy, but because there was nothing left to save, nothing left standing after the truth had burned everything down. Michael begged every single day, like he could rewind time with enough words. Flowers at the door, letters I refused to keep, voicemails I didn't want to hear but couldn't escape, emails filled with desperation that arrived like clockwork. Please, we can fix this. I made a mistake. A mistake. But some words don't fit what actually happened. People forget keys. People forget anniversaries. People forget birthdays. You don't forget how to love someone and accidentally build an entire hidden life instead. You don't slip into months of lies. You don't accidentally choose someone else over your wife again and again and again. That's not a mistake. That's a decision. Repeated, protected, lived, and every single time he chose her, he erased me a little more. By the time the divorce papers were signed 6 months later, it didn't feel like an ending. It felt like the final confirmation of something already dead. I remember sitting across from him in that cold, silent room, watching him breathe like nothing in his world had collapsed, while mine had already been reduced to ruins. He looked like someone I used to know, but not someone I could reach anymore. And in that moment, it hit me with terrifying clarity. I wasn't losing him that day. I had already lost him long before I ever knew the truth. Maybe I never truly had. Chapter 9. Starting Over. The strange thing about heartbreak is that the world keeps moving. The sun still rises. People still go to work. Coffee still gets served. Traffic still exists. Everything continues, even when your own world has collapsed. I remember sitting in my apartment one morning, staring out of the window and whispering to myself, how is everything still normal? Like the world should have stopped with me. Like it should have known what I lost. For months, I barely functioned. I cried in grocery stores, in parking lots, in the shower, and at red lights. Sometimes for reasons, sometimes for none at all. And on the worst days, I would just sit there and say out loud, I can't do this anymore. No one answered. There was no one to answer. But eventually, something changed. The crying became less frequent, then less intense. I remember one afternoon, a friend tried to check on me and said softly, "You don't have to be okay yet, you know." And I just nodded because I didn't know what else to say. I wasn't okay, but I was still here. Then one day, I laughed. Actually laughed. It came out of nowhere during a conversation, and for a second I froze afterward like I had forgotten how it felt. I remember saying, almost confused, "Wait, I haven't done that in so long." And my friend just looked at me and said, "That's a good sign." That moment felt important. Not because I was healed, because I wasn't, but because for the first time I could feel something other than pain. And somehow, that was enough to keep going. Chapter 10. 2 years later. 2 years passed, and life looked completely different. The marriage was gone, and so was my relationship with my sister. People often ask if I ever forgave them. The truth is, forgiveness isn't something that happens all at once. It isn't a single moment where the pain suddenly disappears. It's a process, a choice you make over and over again, not for the people who hurt you, but for yourself. Because carrying that anger forever eventually becomes its own kind of prison. One afternoon, nearly 2 years after everything happened, I received a message. It was from Emily. Just 3 simple words. Can we talk? I stared at the screen for a long time, longer than I care to admit. Memories flooded back. The lies, the betrayal, the countless nights spent wondering how the 2 people I trusted most could have done what they did. Eventually, I put the phone down and walked away. Not because I hated her, not because I wanted revenge, but because for the first time in years, I had finally found peace. And I wasn't willing to lose it again. People think the worst part of betrayal is discovering the truth. It isn't. The worst part is realizing that the people you trusted most were capable of hurting you the deepest. That's the wound that takes the longest to heal. But here's what they don't tell you. Betrayal can break your heart, destroy your plans, and leave scars you'll carry for the rest of your life. Yet it doesn't get to decide how your story ends, because eventually the people who hurt you become chapters in your life rather than the entire book. Their actions stop defining your future, and one day, without even realizing it, you wake up, look around, and understand that you're no longer just surviving, you're living again. And that may be the greatest victory of all.